This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Coffee-fueled stories. Coffee-fueled stories. Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Michelle, and you're listening to Coffee-Fueled Stories. Today's special guest is Richard Wilson, and he is author, creator of Halloween Girl. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Very good, thank you. It seems like I followed you way back when you created your first book.
Yes.
And we wanted to have you on the show, but
Right.
I have a tendency of moving at this time of year, and it just didn't work out.
You and my daughter. Yeah.
We moved again, but we're all settled now, and you have book two.
Yes. Well, it's so funny because I feel like I know you already because I've been, we've been following each other for the last year, and it's just like you're just a friendly face. It's like, hey, Michelle, how you doing? You know what I mean? It's
Totally.
like you're a part of the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Catching up with an old friend.
Yeah, book two, which I'll tell you what, I said this to my wife last night. I said, man, this last year, like from the last Halloween to, it's just been like a blur. It's been a weird year, actually. It's been a very, very weird year on my end. In the end, a good thing, but really tough year. Lost a lot of people, friends and family. So weird. This book that's out now, Halloween Girl Book 2, it's always been one of the most personal things I have ever written. We did the film, and I'll get into all that.
Yeah.
Weird part is you kind of think, how often does that happen where you get that close to the bone? Because you don't just do it. It just happens or it doesn't happen. My God. I was writing earlier this year a fifth Halloween Girl entry. Didn't work. Threw it out. I had this idea for this horror story. It's the short. So I started to work on that. Hey, this is pretty good. So, I could do an anthology series. That would be fun. Okay, big deal. Then all these other stories start coming out. I don't mean just regular story. Very close to the bone, very personal to the point where it was like life-changing. I've said this now a couple times. It was like the universe gave me this really strong drink, and I am hung over to this day. It's taken me all that time to catch up, but it's some of the most personal stuff. And so talking about having the Halloween Girl out now is just that's the theme of the year. It's been all about transition and really digging down deep and rearranging your life. Who the heck you are, because as you know, I was a filmmaker and for many, many years. And so it's just, I've been, getting into graphic novels now, and I love it. But it's just one of those years. I'm really excited to share the stuff I'm talking about with you next year.
Yeah.
It'll be out next year. Hopefully before Halloween. But it's just been that kind of journey. I feel like now I get to have the party. I'm sitting here with you having a good time. You know what I mean? All you guys, we're just all hanging out. But it's been a really intense year. I think I've got some good work to show for it. But boy, I'm ready for a break. I don't want to write it. I don't want to pick up my pen and write another thing for a little while. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't want to go through that anytime soon again. So it was tough. That's the hardest thing. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, what's the hardest thing about writing? And I said, when you're done and you realize what it's the aftermath and the cost, the personal cost.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Totally. And it's interesting that you say that because I read, book one and book two. And by the time I got to the end of book two, and again, no spoilers, I got teary-eyed.
Thank you. Because it's that way for me.
Yeah.
Has been, that story's almost 10 years old.
Wow.
And it still has that impact on me because I wrote it after my mom passed away. And my dad had passed away a couple months prior to that. And I was sitting in the backyard with my wife, still, my mom hadn't been gone very long. And I said, I got to do something to get this out. And the only thing I knew how to do at that point that got anything out, because this is before I, started to get serious about helping myself a little bit more, but was to write. I didn't know how to do anything else to make anything better. So We talked about it. My wife's always been very like supportive of all kinds of things. The business was going really well, and we had the money, and so we put together a little company called Mancelli Films, and we thought we'd do this one film, kind of like see what happened. I had so much fun. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I got so much out. We had the film going to film festivals. It was great. We did well. It was well received. And then I kind of tried to go back to work, which was my main company, Outreach Arts, educational films, and all that stuff for teenagers, which I loved. I felt, I did, but I kept coming back to this character. After Charlotte was introduced, I couldn't let her go. And then we started a new web series called Under the Flowers, where she's in that, and then it expands, and there's Poe, her friend, and there's this, that, and they're battling the Hollow, and it's just like, and I was having a grand old time, right? But we did 3 seasons, and then I kind of felt like I'd done all I could do, because we only had like little budgets to work with, and you can't push out with your story, right? I mean, it's just like, but I was also getting to the point where I kind of burnt myself out with Outreach Arts, because all the stuff I did was for mental health, and it was for kids who had very few resources. I would interview them for years, and like year after year, it was always a new batch of kids. Really was before Under the Flowers finally just kind of ended. I was leaving Outreach Arts because I couldn't do it anymore. I was really burned out. It was kind of like, imagine being an artistic social worker.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it. You know what I mean? And I couldn't do it anymore. So I was fortunate enough that I was able to walk away, but I didn't have anything left. And then by the end of Under the Flowers, I was like, film wise, I felt like I've done all I can do as an indie filmmaker. I'd have to go to a different level to do anything more. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have the resources. Because then the pandemic came along, and then, that's when those decisions were made. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, well, who am I now? And I went through a really difficult time during the pandemic. It was all the things I've been carrying around just kind of like that. And I think that happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I never thought, oh no, I've got it all under control. I do things on mental health year in and year out, and I got the help that I needed. Boy, I had to break in half to actually go get that help. And I sure did. And I wrote the whole time when I could. And I wrote probably during that period of the pandemic 3 Halloween girl books.
Wow.
And they helped get me through,
Yeah.
So I have a very, Charlotte and Poe are me, and it's just kind of like, I will always owe those characters a real tremendous gratitude for getting me through a really difficult time. So I don't know whether there will be any more books after the 4th book, because, like I said, I tried to do a 5th, and it really didn't really work. But I really feel good about what I have in the bucket. The first 2 and the other 2 that hopefully we can get out there. It's a real ride doing things that are this personal, like book 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think I'm dealing with it better finally than I did when I started. You know what I mean? When we did the film.
Writing is extremely cathartic. Writing is an amazing way to help process that sadness, that pain, whatever it is, the grief. Writing is extremely helpful in that process. And I know it's like cheesy to say that journaling got, like, if you hear somebody, journaling got me through that really difficult period, and you're like, I understand what you're saying 100%. Me too.
I totally, and I think that people look at journaling like I think journaling is a horrible word for what we're both talking about.
Yes.
Journaling sounds like, I'm making a bunch of little notes, scribbles. You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like. Even though we know journaling means, but I think other people hear journaling and that's what they hear.
Yeah.
This is really going into your soul and like knocking on the door and saying, hello, anybody in here? And it's not just, well, I see a bird in a tree today. It's a lot deeper ride than that.
Yeah.
And I mean, boy, I understand what you. I understand the journaling part, because I did a lot of that too when I was feeling really ill, and it helped keep me grounded, and also just kind of like take my thoughts, and they were all jumbled together, and kind of like separate them and have something. Okay, I see that now. You know what I mean? It's just great.
It's a great tool. It
right.
is.
You and I both write, so it's like it's great for us, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like a 13-year-old girl writing in her journal saying, "I'm in
Right.
love with Johnny today."
Right.
It's not
Exactly.
that.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
exactly what you said. And sometimes, especially when you have like grief, like the one thing with grief, it seems
Mhm.
like with grief, there's usually like more than one. It's not just sadness. It's sadness, anger, pain, loneliness. It's literally like 5 emotions at one time, and your brain is going, okay, I should probably eat, but I don't feel like it. And so you literally, and I love what you said. It helps you unpack what you're feeling because you have so many feelings at one time and you don't know how to process that. I never experienced grief until, a few years, like like this kind of deep grief. Like, yes, I lost my grandmother and I was sad, but the loss of a partner, like that's deep grief. The loss of a parent, that's deep grief, especially if you're close, and connected, right? And how do you unpack those feelings and acknowledge and say, okay, I'm really like angry, like I'm a little bit angry at my mom because I didn't understand how much, pain she was in. I didn't realize she was so sad and I wish she would have talked to me. And so sometimes I'm like, gosh, mom, I wish you would have just talked to me about that, but I can't say that to her anymore. I mean, I can in a journal, you
Right.
know,
Exactly.
and then I can unpack that anger, and it's anger with sadness, So again, yes, journaling and catharsis and writing is what we're talking about here.
Absolutely.
But I was going to ask you, in some of the panels, some of the images that you have, if there are any like backstories or Easter eggs, and you do have some war scenes in there. There's, the Kevlar helmet, the rifle image. So the second you said that, my brain instantly went to that particular panel in
Yeah.
book. I
I
want to
know
say it
which
was
one
book
you're
one.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
know that part of the book. Yeah. In book one. Yeah. I mean, it's, um, I think like a lot of us, especially, in the last 5 years or whatever it is, it feels like the world's falling apart. You know what I mean? And as I'm writing these things, I'm trying to make sense of the fact that the world's been here for a very long time and we've been through quite a lot. And did you ever see any of the Wim Wenders movies like Wings of Desire, the with the angels and all that? Great art film. I'll put it that way. One of my favorites. I love it. But they're watching over humanity and seeing what's going on. You know what I mean? And I just,
Yeah.
it's just there's 2 films that they made, and I love them, and that's kind of what I was trying to kind of achieve with that big splash page you're talking about with the wars and this
Yeah,
movement
yeah,
around this, and
yeah.
absolutely, like that's. But I mean, for me, it's like I have to pull back and think. The world's been in a lot of mess, a lot of deep doo doo, over and over again, and we'll get out of this too. So,
Yes. This
you
too
know,
shall pass,
it
right?
too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Okay, now that we've been very philosophical
Yes,
and
yes,
very deep,
yes.
I'm going to lighten it up and let's go into the graphic novels and
Okay.
talk about some of the stories and things of that nature within Halloween Girl. One of the things that I love that you put in there was bullies suck.
Really suck.
I love like that was like right instantly in book one. That was I want to say it was like page 2. It was like
Yeah.
instant
Oh, yeah.
panel.
First story. Yes.
Yeah, bully sucks. So I love that. So thank you for that. And then you have a spider. So why the spider out of all of the things to choose? Because I hate spiders. So like, I mean, I guess you could have
Spiders are
picked a snake or
creepy as hell. And I remember when I was little, they had the creepy crawlers. You're young, so you don't know. But I'm old, and so when I was little, they still had the toys that could harm you, and set you on fire.
yeah.
Your parents bought them for you. The 60s and 70s, and they had a creepy crawlers kit. Man, I'll tell you what. You poured the goop into this spider. The spider was the biggest one in the kit. Big black spider.
Ugh.
Well, I always thought you know why? Because you could run into a spider. Anybody in any, you could be
Yeah.
in the bed. There's a damn spider.
Yeah.
Spiders always creep me out because it's the gracefulness. If you look at spiders, it's almost like they're little demons. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
just I can't explain it, but there's just this. There's so many weird combinations. There's gracefulness. There's just pure scariness. There's just I don't know. The only other thing that probably scares me more are witches. Oh, witches scare the hell out of me. To this day, everybody like witches. Who cares about witches? I care about witches. Witches scare me. I had nightmares about witches because that's all we used to see on TV when we were little kids back then.
Right?
It was exorcist time. Everybody was obsessed with witches and the devil. You have no idea, Michelle. It was every freaking week. We were just laughing about this the other night. It was the witches or demons every movie of the week for like 6 years.
And possession. So I'm probably not too far behind you. I was born in 70. So I do remember
right,
Damien,
well,
Omen and Exorcist.
Right.
Those messed me up as a kid. Like I did see those on TV.
No. Yeah.
Oh
You're
my God.
my sister's age, yeah.
And like Rosemary's Baby. My mom loved horror. So Night of the Living Dead, like I watched all of those with my mom.
Yeah, but it's the demon stuff. It's the scariest movie I still have ever seen is The Exorcist.
Yes.
No scarier film.
Have you read it? Did you actually read it?
No, I have not read it. It took me. You're gonna laugh because I'm supposed to be a horror guy. It took me years to get through a full Exorcist movie because it scares me so much.
Oh, I'm right there with you, Richard.
Terrifying.
No, Richard. So first time I ever saw it was with my mom, and it's full entirety from start to finish. After that, I literally said,
I'm
sorry?
Re-release or
it was on TV. It was on TV.
Okay.
And I was a kid, and my mom, she had read the book. So she had the book, she read the book, and she was like, you cannot read this book. She was like, but you can watch the movie. And I was like, okay, this doesn't make any sense, right? But again, it was the 70s. So the fact that we survived, was a miracle. So watched it with her. I looked at her and I was like, I don't ever want to watch that with you ever again. Have you noticed how Coffee Fueled Stories doesn't have any ads? That's because I work tirelessly to keep this show alive. After 3 years on my own, I've decided I need to ask for your help. I've never asked anyone to subscribe. I've never asked anyone to leave a review. I've never asked anyone to rate the show. And I've never asked anyone to pay to listen. There are a few ways you can help support the show. I've created a Patreon page, Coffee Fueled Stories, and a subscription section on my podcast website. It's simple to support and help me keep my dream alive. Just click the link in the show notes to set up your paid subscription option. It's that easy. Thank you for your support.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's terrifying.
It is. It is truly terrifying. And I did read her book, her copy of it from the 70s. I read it when I was like 30. And I had to put it face down on the bedside nightstand. I could not have the cover on, like I did not want to see so I would always put it upside down. And I read it and I told my mom, I was like, I wish you would have told me read that when I was 50. Because 30.
I don't think I'll be. No, I have to tell you, and I was talking to my buddy John the other night, and he said we both agreed that that's the scariest. And it's like, well, why? And it's like, and I said, like I knew what I thought, and he said because it's like it could happen. It's like it's we believe that it could happen. And it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly why it's scary because that there's evil in the world. You know what I mean? That. So it might not be The Exorcist, quite The Exorcist, but it reminds you, it's just like a good movie, just like It's a Wonderful Life reminds you that there is light in the world and there's goodness and, you know what I mean? And the, Wizard of Oz, whatever. You watch The Exorcist, it reminds you there's horrible, horrible darkness, world, so.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever be writing an Exorcist. Don't hold your breath, anybody. Not gonna happen. Nope. No way.
Oh man, I gotta
have fun with the stuff that I do. Like if we can't joke around and laugh, to a point. There's not a lot of jokes in that. I've done a lot of that in the second book. It's very short. It's only really like 2 issues. But But in the first book and all the other books, you have to laugh.
Yes.
It's still, heavy stuff, but you got to find a place to laugh.
Absolutely. And especially in addition to the pain, the sadness, and the struggling, grief, things of that, you have to laugh. There is laughter. And one of the ways that I would put myself to sleep at night, I called it, rainbow. I was like, okay, I'm miserable, I'm sad, I'm lonely, but I need to go to sleep because the body needs it needs it. And so I would watch cat videos and Nailed It. I would look at Nailed It, like the cake fails, people like attempting to make a spider cake and it just looked like a big mess, and I would just laugh. Yeah. And laughter is very powerful and it's part of that process as well.
Well, that's the thing. If you, as heartbroken as we can be, we have to keep reminding ourselves that it's a big circle of stuff.
Yes.
It's not just, here we are, we're letting you off here. It just, we keep coming back
yes.
to good stuff, and it's a constant circle. And I think that's the reason, because it's literally like having a balanced diet. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're not always going to get this for dinner. We're coming back around. The seasons are changing. You know what I mean? I'm not putting it well at all.
No, that's perfect. It would be like if you only ate meat, you would eventually be constipated, right? If you only ate vegetables, so you got to have that balance, right? There's a whole point of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So Richard, I love where we've been going, but I literally have like 3 pages worth of questions.
Oh,
so I want to make sure I don't waste your time.
Yes, I'll be quiet.
No, you're good. So you kind of answered this question. How did this story come about? So you did mention that, and then my question specifically is why as a graphic novel as opposed to a regular novel or novella or short stories?
Well, Michelle, I can't write prose. I've tried. I would love to be able to write prose. It is not a part of me. That's why this was easier to jump from writing screenplays to graphic novels, because they're so close. These are like storyboards in a sense. You know what I mean? I'm sure everybody, but also it's also to me the thing about that I'm attracted to with graphic novels and that I was with film is there's a rock and roll element. It's just, I hear beats, I hear music in dialogue, I hear, the action, and we're not lingering on a pond. And I'm not that kind of guy. To me, I always feel like life is so short. I want to get to the point and let's get in there. And I always think like my guide is Jumpin' Jack Flash. I just like want, everything, but it's gotta feel like music. If it doesn't feel like music, if the story, the structure of the story and the dialogue, if they don't feel like music, then they're not working for me.
That's magical. I
love it. Magic. I mean, it's just kind of like, I just love rock and roll, and I just feel like I love the energy in film and comics because it's got that energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can't wait. We got to talk about this now. That kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, music is near and dear, and it's also very healing. And, and if you're feeling very angry, put on some punk rock music and, get it out. Heavy, as they say, heavy metal and, lift weights. I'm right there.
A lot of people do that. Yeah. One of the guys I grew up with was like, he was on the wrestling team. And he said, I get nervous before I go out. What should I do? And I said, I don't know, put on Helter Skelter, with this when we were kids. And that's what he did before each. And he was all pumped and he was ready to go crazy when he went out there. So, I don't know, Phil, Helter Skelter.
Awesome.
But yeah, it does. Music is is my favorite art form, period. So, I just get more from music than anything.
You talked about music I have here. What are some of your favorite childhood books? But let's make that, what are some of your favorite bands? Because you're talking, I would have known this was going to be a music thing. I would have gone down that direction. So let's go music.
I just saw my favorite band for the 8th time a couple weeks ago. The Psychedelic Furs are my favorite band.
No way. That's awesome.
They are. I mean, like they came up with me kind of like as a teenager, and I took them for granted because they were always there. But at the end of the day, they are my favorite band. I saw them back in the clubs when I was a teenager, and to me, they're just the greatest. Now, my favorite overall music, like that, not necessarily band, would be David Bowie, so he's the biggest influence, I would say, overall. But I mean, I was between classic rock like the Beatles and the Who and post punk, Joy Division, and all the rest of that. So I was always in that spot, age wise. So I always love a lot of classic rock, and I also love tons of post punk. I love The Cure, and I love and so they're all just kind of part of my growing up, But yeah, I mean, Kate Bush, old Peter Gabriel when he was with Genesis, and then I still love just I mean it's kind of like this mishmash of stuff. You know who I love who's independent, who doesn't get enough love and should, because she's brilliant, and she wrote the Halloween Girl song last year for our book. Charlotte Martin. She is amazing. If you like Kate Bush, Tori Amos, and all, Charlotte is just she has such depth, and I just love her. So, and we're friends now, which is weird. I bought her records for years. Now we're pals.
That's so cool.
She's pretty awesome. So just a lot of mix, and I also listen to a lot of soundtracks. Always have. I've been a soundtrack geek since I was probably 12. I made my parents buy me the original Planet of the Apes LP. Like, you know what I mean?
I was going to ask, what was your first soundtrack?
I still have it.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I just love soundtracks. I still buy soundtracks.
I actually write to soundtracks because I can't have lyrics. So I need to have orchestral type of music. Yeah. And sometimes you want the really quiet, peaceful, right? So like if you're going, and then all of a sudden you want the strings to just come in strong, and then that timpani bass just like pounds, and you're like, yes, and you just start pounding on the keys, and you're like, this is amazing. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I've written over and over again to some of the same soundtracks. It's also really good, who's not necessarily a soundtrack composer, but I discovered way back in the 80s, Tim Story. He's pretty good look him up. He's got some an old one that I always listen to a lot called Glass Green, and it came out in, I don't know, early 80s.
I'll look him up.
Very spooky, very like just quiet, it's good to write to.
For sure. John Williams is usually my go-to.
Sure.
I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, Jaws, come on, and Star Wars. I mean, that's just classic. Like that's, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, he is brilliant.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Okay. How old were you when you saw your first movie or film? The one that just like spoke to you?
Well, the one that just spoke to me, that scared the hell out of me, was The Blob. I saw The Blob on TV when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And I go to Blobfest now every year in Phoenixville, PA, so where they shot, part of the movie. So The Blob scared me to death. So, I mean, I saw Herbie Rides again, probably, but I mean, but The Blob is The Blob.
Is that where it comes out of the theater? Is that the theater that they use?
That's the theater they shot it in.
Okay, that is
our family. It's a family trip every summer. We go and we have an incredible time, great street party. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, that is amazing. Again, my mom, like I watched that with my mom. Like The Blob was just like and didn't they redo it in like the 80s, like late 80s or something like that?
Dylan's little brother Kevin Dillon, I think he was in it.
Yeah, because I remember watching the remake, and I was just like, the original. I mean, you just can't beat the original.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah.
I know you're all the way out where I want to be, where you're out west. But I mean, if you ever make it out this way, you got to go to Blobfest in the summertime. It's just too much fun. Movie after movie on the screen, big screen, and it is a party and a half. One of the best events, like science fiction, whatever, fun just events, I would say, in the entire country.
Blobfest. It just sounds amazing. And The Blob is just like fun to say. Like as far as like horror movies were concerned, like that is just genius. Whoever did that was just brilliant coming up with that concept.
Oh yeah, that's the one that first grabbed me. I'll put it that way.
Blobfest. We could probably have a whole episode on Blobfest alone. Blobfest. Totally. Yes. I wanted to ask you, if speaking of silly films, if you could make a silly film, what would it be about? Like, for example, a kid who loves pizza, something completely goofy. Like, if you could just do something absolutely insane, what would it be?
Here's an idea that keeps coming back, and of course, it's never going to happen. But I have this idea about somebody like a Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd. You know what I mean? Going into his mind, and in his mind, it's like the Wind in the Willows and Alice in Wonderland or whatever. But he's picking up information about his own life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Childhood, like books that he loves so dearly. And I thought it would be so, number one, they're also incredibly funny. Those old books, they had humor in them, very English British humor. But I mean, I just love the idea. Like, for instance, maybe he comes back to reality, this character, and can't really talk very much, to people. It's kind of, you know what I mean? Isn't very, but in his dream world with these characters from his childhood or whatever, he starts to put everything together. It's kind of, it's a little kind of, I can feel and see the humor in it because I know what makes me laugh, and I know that, but I also see there's a lot of pathos, you know what I mean, in something like that too. So, but that's that's an idea that just keeps knocking around in my head, and I think it's my excuse to visit these awesome children's books. I always wanted to write children's stories, and they get too heavy for me, and that's why. I have to find a workaround, and Halloween Girl is really a workaround for me because I get to go places. I seem to settle in teen world, not because I want to be a teenager again. I don't. But I just, for whatever reason, I feel like we live in different spots, different areas of our, like some people are stuck in this, some people are stuck in that, some people come alive a lot later. I don't know. But for me, there's always been I always come back to teenagers. And I think that's why it's hard for me to just write something that was totally light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always a Rebel Without a Cause, stream through whatever I do, no matter whether I want to or not, it always turns into that. You know what I mean? So pretty soon we're rebelling against something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because that was actually two of the questions. So what are some of your favorite childhood books? So we segued from childhood book question because you were talking about rock and roll and music. But that's actually one of the questions I had before we took the detour into music. And then I was going to ask you, because a lot of the projects that you did were related to teenagers, and that's actually one of the questions that I have. Like, what was the fascination, or is there something specific about wanting to do teenage stories? And so you pretty much just answered that.
That's really it, and that's the perfect movie to, that's the perfect movie to say, like that. There's so much of my thing I feel in that, character, in that, the James Dean character in that movie. So anyway.
Yeah, no, and it's classic. I mean, it really is. No matter how old you are, you can really relate to, at least for me anyway. You especially sometimes you don't always know. What I'm trying to say is, you have a voice in you, but sometimes you just don't know how to let it be set free.
And that's a good movie. That is a movie, really.
Yes.
It's a brilliant film. It's one of my top 5 favorite films of all time, actually. Like it's one of my very favorite. Like, that's a formative film for me.
Yes. And James Dean, I mean, he was brilliant as an actor. I mean, he was perfection for his time, and gone too soon. So unfortunately. So I wanted to ask you, candy corn. You have candy corn, and you address it. You even address it. You say in there, some people like it, some people hate it. But why did you choose candy corn?
It's like this is just another way to flip people off. This is Charlotte and Paul are all about flipping people off, man. And it's like Charlotte's like, yeah, I like it. What are you going to do about it? You know what I mean?
And the necklace. It's a candy corn necklace.
I found that on Etsy. I was putting together like her costume, trying to figure out what she looked like, and I said, "This is awesome." So I bought 2 of them because I think we lost one. But just so Catherine said to me, Catherine Kuster, who played the Halloween Girl in the film, because she says, "I'm willing to come back," she's actually a soon-to-be mom, but she says, "Hey, you do anything in the future with the books, I'll basically put back the necklace and get out there, put the motorcycle jacket back on you." she's a sweetheart. She's a good kid. So, and she
That's
really inspired a lot. Her and Lauren Lavera. Lauren Lavera, by the way, who the same Lauren Lavera who's in Terrifier 2, the star of that movie where she was our Poe in Under the Flowers, and so they were both big influences. I will never forget their energies. So they inspire a lot of the characters, the two characters, Charlie.
that's awesome. Okay, so because you have the candy corn,
Yeah.
and because it is the flipping off candy, which that's like the best way to describe it. I freaking love that. Do
Yeah.
you have a favorite Halloween candy?
Oh man. Oh, we love Halloween here, so we give out and we don't care. Everybody goes, "Why are you spending so much money on Halloween?" Because we love it, and we have a great Halloween around here. Streets are loaded with kids. It's just a great development for it. You know what I mean? We give out the big bars.
Nice.
So for me, it's like as long as it's a big bar and it's like a Snickers, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say probably for me, it's always Snickers, giant Snickers. So got to be a giant Snickers bar, not be little dinky.
Yeah, not a little bite-sized thing. That's
just something I can really sink my teeth into. You know what I mean? I
yes.
probably the best.
Nice. So would that be so I have here your favorite trick-or-treating memory. So would you go hunting for the houses with the big bars?
We didn't expect them because everybody was poor. So it was like, you didn't expect anything. One of the funniest memories I ever had, number one, the greatest memories are here at the house with my wife and daughter and all and the neighbors. Oh my gosh, we have such a blast. But the funniest story I ever had, it was the last Halloween with me and the guys, and we're in like 13. Okay, and this was going to be our last Halloween. So we go trick or treating around, and we just had such a good time. Me, Phil, Danny, and a bunch of other. So we decided to go to the apartments, which we never do. Knock on the door, and we knock on the door, and there's a guy who he could have been from the Philippines. I have no idea. Did not speak a lick of English. And we're going trick or treat. He's like, oh, and he shuts the door. He slams the door, and the 6 of us are falling on the floor laughing. Right? It was like a John Hughes movie. So then, right? Guess what? Then we're still laughing, and we're getting ready to maybe leave. The door opens back up, and it's him, and he's got a bunch of Nilla wafers, and he starts pouring Nilla wafers into our bags, and we go, "Oh, thanks, and bye, happy Halloween." That to me is the funniest Halloween. And we went out, we ran out of that apartment, and a bunch of us are on the ground laughing so hard our stomachs hurt. I'll never forget that memory. It was the funniest Halloween memory ever.
And that was your last trigger. I'm sorry.
Tiny man giving us Nilla wafers. You know what I mean? And
but
yeah, no spooky stories. Just like that was hysterical. That was really fun.
And I mean, talk about going out with a bang. You guys aren't. You're like, how do we top that? Like that, and that's why no more. Like that was your last trick or treating.
Oh,
like
that was a movie. That was a little movie right there.
Yeah,
and I remember walking home, and my mom or my dad or whatever, like I'm walking up the top of my street because my town was this big. It was a quintessential, right out of a movie, a little American town. It was so old and so tiny. We all knew each other. And so I'm walking home on the top of my street. My mom or dad's coming home from getting like the paper or something. I hop in, and I remember Fleetwood Mac was in the charts with "You Make Love and Fun," and and I hear that song, and it was just the perfect little Halloween song, like for that night. You got to believe in magic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I think of when I think of that Halloween.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Like my cheeks hurt. I'm laughing so hard. That's great. So I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get to this question, but since we did talk about music and how music is very integral to filmmaking as well,
right.
Toby Hooper did Billy Idol's "Dancing with Myself" music video.
Yeah.
So if you were to do a music video, who would you want to do a music video for?
Oh, that's a really good one. Well, Bowie's no longer here, so all things Bowie. But I guess Hey, you know something? I would do an excellent video for Charlotte Martin.
There you go.
Yeah, I would take Charlotte to places. Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
I feel like as I've gotten to know her and in her just through her music and then just a little personally over the last year, like I feel we could really make a hell of a video.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. I'm waiting for. I'm ready. Whenever
yeah.
you guys are ready to make that, I'm ready to
Really.
share it on my Radio UNK podcast.
No, she's amazing. She got a great concert coming up at the end of the month too. Going to do a staging thing, so I got to tune in for that. But I can't recommend her enough. She's man. Not more people need to listen to her.
All right, all right. We're gonna be. I'll be tagging her and sharing, and we're all gonna cross pollinate here. That's the whole point of this stuff. Help other people get known, and that's the reason I love doing this podcast is because it's for independent authors or independent musicians who might not get have their voice heard. That's why we're all here sharing.
You do a great job, Michelle, because I'll tell you, you put people at ease instantly. You know what I mean? And so it's great. I mean, I do feel like I kind of know you, but at the same time, you still put people at ease very, very, very quickly. And not everybody's very good at that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm glad. I don't know, maybe my very first background was a journalism major.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they like interviewing skills is like the most important thing. Like writing a story, people can write a story, but you need to be able to interview people. You need to be able to hear what they're saying, hear what they're sharing, and then be able to tap into that. So the fact, like with music, like the second you opened up about music, I was like, and there we go. I was like, that's going to be our connection.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I mean, I had to learn when I would interview kids doing outreach arts, which was really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good listener.
Yes.
Let them talk. I mean, sometimes I would only wind up with 3 questions, but they would all just. But yeah, absolutely. I learned a lot doing that. I learned a lot about listening in general, I would say, when I did that work. So.
And that's the magic. You want to know how to connect with people? Just listen. One more. Favorite classic or modern horror monster?
Oh, but see, Kevin just asked me this on his radio show the other day, and I'm like, I didn't know what to say. I have like a favorite, like one of my in my top 5 favorite movies is The Bride of Frankenstein. That I love. No, it's just the greatest. I love that movie to death because it's also very funny. But if I don't know, man. Kevin wanted me to say Frankenstein because we were sponsoring the Son of Frankenstein movie as the book giveaway on October 1st. It was great. We had a ball, Colonial Blobfest at the Colonial Theater. But he wanted me to say Frankenstein. But I said like the Wolfman or something. I don't know. And he goes, Wolfman getting a lot of trouble. Yeah, and I was like, okay. I don't know, man. I just don't know what monster. Sympathy for the Wolfman because it's like, poor guy walking along, gets bit by a werewolf, and he's screwed. You know what I mean? And then he's got to deal with this werewolf shit.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going Wolfman.
Okay, Wolfman it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Larry Talbot all the way. Yeah. Larry Talbot for the win.
All right. Yeah. All right. And Lon Chaney Jr. or Lon Chaney, right, was the original Wolfman way back in. Right. So, and I wore my shirt today, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but it's my Nosferatu shirt.
I love it. That's a good one.
Nosferatu going way back.
Dracula's my favorite horror character.
Yeah.
But when I think about who's got my vibe? I guess the Wolfman. I don't know. But I wish I could be as cool as Dracula, but that's not gonna happen. You know something? While we're on the subject, real quick, next weekend, my buddy Kevin, and I are heading to Famous Monsters Convention in Pennsylvania to meet Lon Chaney's great grandson and Lon Chaney's grandson. Junior's grandson. Ron Chaney, and he's made up as the Phantom of the Opera, and we're getting pictures.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, awesome, right?
Come on.
Oh, so I'm like, yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm excited because he's 90 some years old now, but James Warren, who started Famous Monsters, is going to be there, and that to me is why I'm going because I want to meet my buddy James Warren, who has been guiding me since I was 8 with his
I just
family.
got goosebumps when you started talking about him because,
He's like 95 now.
that's crazy. Oh my God. Okay. Well, I can't wait to see that on Instagram, like
Yeah.
your photos of that. That's going to be,
I'll that up next Saturday night probably when after I get home. But yeah, I can't wait. Kevin and I are pumped.
I'm going to be living vicariously through you through those photos. So I'm serious. I'm like, I cannot wait. I'm like, that's
Oh,
so freaking cool. That is so awesome. Richard, I usually ask about coffee, being that this is coffee
yes,
fueled stories.
yes.
So, do you drink coffee, tea, or water?
Well, I mean, I'm a coffee guy.
Awesome.
I'm a coffee guy. Yeah.
What is your go-to coffee, and how much coffee do you drink in a day?
Don't drink as much as I used to, but I still drink a lot. Um,
Best answer ever.
Starbucks is my favorite, and I usually have like two. I have a big mug and a half of that, like a soup bowl kind of. I'm not talking about like a little. I'm talking about there's a soup bowl, and I'll have that and maybe a half of that soup bowl. So
Nice.
still a lot of coffee.
Will you please send me a photo of your soup bowl mug? I would love to see that.
I will, yeah, because it's got like cherries and stuff on it. It's a big ass, like.
I have got to see this. I want to see this mug. I've got to see. I
Yeah,
want to.
yeah.
It's a
So that's I always like drinking coffee in a really big mug. I hate these little teeny tiny. I want to go.
nice. That's awesome. So, Richard, regarding the Halloween Girl books, when can we? Well, you said they're coming out next year, yes?
Well, we've got book one is out there all over the place. You
Yes.
can order it from
Yes.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and same with book two. That came out October 1st everywhere.
Awesome.
You can order it, but you can order book two through us too directly, rtwfilms.com, and I will autograph a copy and send it. So same price and all, but you can order it from your comic. You can order them from your comic shop. You just have to ask, hey, can you? It doesn't matter because the distribution is very wide.
That is so cool.
You just have to ask, and they will order it for you, even if it's just Barnes and Noble and you want to do it there. But yeah, I've got two more books that are Halloween Girl related. The next one's called Gods and Monsters.
Ooh, that sounds
And
amazing.
the last one, maybe if it is the last one, is called Seasons of the Witch.
Ooh, those sound amazing.
A lot of things about COVID in that. So a lot of things, I'm really excited about those two books. The next one's really actually going to be kind of scary, scarier than people would be used to. From if they've read the two books. Yeah. So it's I'm excited. I'm trying to find. I'm working maybe with a new artist right now because everybody's got their we're all shifting around all the time. And I want to see how things work. So if that works out, we'll see. But it takes such a long time to get to get these things done. I mean, it takes like a year to get the art done and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It takes me a couple months or whatever to write it, but but there's so much that goes into it when the illustration kicks in. So
Absolutely. And that was actually going to be what my final question about the graphic novels was: how long does it take from iteration from your brain idea to publication, iteration to publication?
A long time. I mean, it takes me about, when I work on a piece, it's probably about 6 months or whatever that I work on a book.
Wow.
And after that, I mean, it could take up to a year to get a short book or whatever done because I'm working with people who are juggling a lot of other things. You know what I mean? They're not working for Marvel or DC. They're indie like me, and so we get that. But that's why I had several artists on the first book, or I never would have gotten it out. That's the longest thing I've written. The other things are shorter. But when you want to work with one artist for a book, you're going to wait. And I understand it. I'm not saying it as a complaint. I'm saying that there's a lot that goes into it with lettering. You got somebody else who's lettering the book. Sometimes the artist is not the person who's going to be lettering the book. There's a lot that goes into it. And yeah, I just wish more people who were doing that kind of work could make a better living at it. I always feel badly because it's like I've worked with different things and they're like, oh my God, I got to quit this and actually get a corporate gig somewhere because I can't, and they're from different parts of the world. They're not necessarily just here in the States. I'm talking about Ireland, I'm about Italy, And I feel bad. These kids are so, and they're mostly young people. They're so good. And I just, feel badly because, I want them to be able to do what they do so well. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a difficult business, and you only stay in the arts if you have to, because if you didn't, you'd die. And that's the truth. And you're willing to put up with all the bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can't imagine living any other way, and it's not fun. People think of it as so fun. It's not fun.
Glamorous.
It's work, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not, it's no walk in the park. You do it because you feel if you didn't, you would implode.
Absolutely.
I think that's what happens. People hit this crossroads, and it's like, I'm either gonna do that, or I can't. And believe me, I understand people who don't want to do it. I understand people say, look, I tried it. I'm getting the corporate gig over here, and get my 401k. I get it. I wish I were that way many days, but I'm not. And anyway.
Yeah. So, on the subject of graphic novels, do you have a favorite graphic novel?
Yeah. I have a favorite graphic novel series. Neil Gaiman's Sandman series is my favorite. That's
right. Oh my God. It's so amazing.
He is just one of my favorite writers of all time. He's probably, my favorite living writer. I have Charles Dickens and Lewis Carroll and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. I went to hear him speak actually the other year, my wife and I, and he was amazing. We were reading from his works and just so funny. Neil Gaiman's Sandman series has captivated me for years. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, he's an amazing storyteller. Amazing. And so creative. And every story is so different from the next.
It's true. Like, you look at American Gods, and it's like, and I mean, he's just,
Yeah. Ocean at the End of the Lane is one of my favorite
books. I love it. That's the
right?
first, that was the first, I'd read a bunch of the Sandman stuff, and I thought, I've never really read any of his books. And so I picked up that, and I was like, that's still one of my favorite books that he's ever written.
Yes, I'm like, where's the movie for that? I was cinematically in my head as I'm reading it. I'm like, this needs to be made into a movie.
Oh, they've got something coming out apparently. He's I think it got shut down due to COVID. But I do remember reading that's in production. Yeah.
Oh
They
man.
did a musical. They did a musical version of it in London.
No.
Yeah, they did. It was.
I'm gonna have to go look that up.
Oh yeah, it never came over here. But again, COVID hit, so
yeah, a lot of things didn't.
Yeah, things like COVID.
I know it stopped us from doing a lot of the things, but at the same time, it also did kind of show a different way that we can be creative in other ways. That's when podcasts exploded. That's when TikTok and like everybody just exploded because we had nothing else better to do other than hang out on our phones and in our computers, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we all collectively face the same thing together, and we'll all have that in common for the rest of our lives. You know what I mean? And like very few generations do.
Absolutely. So I wanted to say thank you so much for your time, Richard.
Thank you, Michelle. This has been so much fun.
This is so cool. So, like I said, I've got my notes. Oh, one last question. You were Rondo nominated?
Yeah.
Can you tell us really quickly about that before we go?
That was a big deal to me because it's like Rondos are really cool because they nominate all the different like horror things that are not like just everything like from across the board. The movies that were out that year, the TV shows, the books, the comics, or whatever, and we got nominated for the first book. So I was really excited about that. It was a real honor for me to be up there with people whose work I buy, and all that kind of stuff. So that was really neat. So
that is so cool. Congratulations on that. Like when I because the best way to describe it, I guess, would say like Rondo is like the horror Oscar equivalent.
That's kind of how I described it to somebody. So it's like the horror Oscars, the horror Emmys, whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah. So it was I was thrilled.
To be like wow. So that's why. So I kind of was like, holy crap. I was like, not only is he, this really down to earth guy and we're hanging out, we're having this awesome conversation, psychedelic furs. The second you said that, I literally have Love My Way in my head.
Oh man.
And, like it takes me back to like my high
Yeah.
school days. And I'm like, and he's Rondo nominated. I'm like,
That
that was freaking awesome.
So I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, he won, but anyway. But the point is, it's pretty fun. I just think I think the horror community in general is a really fun group of people, and everybody puts it out there, and I don't know. It's just, it, I love being in this community. It's just, people are so nice, and so just such a lot of fun, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so glad we finally got a chance to do this.
Finally, right? Yes.
To talk about your books and at Halloween time, because that was the whole point. Like, I mean, we could have talked about this back in March, but it just wouldn't have the same effect.
Now. I'm glad we did it. This is good.
Yes. This is awesome. The tagline is "Go forth and be magical," and I would love it if you could say, you can say it in like a sing-song voice. You can do it however you would like, but I would like to end it with you sending us off, if you would, please. Just go forth
and be magical.